Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and today we have Friday Sews. So thanks to Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room for kicking off this hashtag where we get together once a week to talk all things sewing and to figure out what's on our minds and on our sewing tables. So welcome back, or welcome if you're new to this channel. I am super excited to be back. And I'm going to go ahead and begin with what I've sewn since the last time we spoke, and hopefully you will notice this fabric. So I just picked up this fabric last weekend at G Street Fabrics, and it is this cotton terry fabric. I think it's a cotton French terry in this beautiful mustard color. And last we spoke, I was talking about making like a track set, some sort of like jogger and sweatshirt set, and I made it. So I just needed something to ease me back into sewing. I have not sewn a garment for myself since I made the McCall's dress, which you saw back in January, so very early January, and I was just itching to be back in the sewing room. So I figured a jogging set would be good. I used one of my vintage finds. So this is McCall's 6287, and I thrifted this pattern quite some time ago. I really like most of the views. Like, I can't wait to make the bomber jacket that's here, and this entire sort of set. I like that it has the straight leg without the sort of cuffing detail. I think that those are really, really nice. So I went ahead and made basically these two views, the sweatshirt top and the jogging bottoms, and it went really well. So I ended up going with a small in the sweatshirt just based on the finished garment measurements and all of that. And I went for a size medium in the trousers. Here is what that looks like. Very, very long in the body of this, which I think is shown in the illustrations. It goes past the hip and is a very, very relaxed sort of fit. It has pockets as well, so very roomy pockets. This fabric is so sturdy, it works really well. I want to show you the top of the waistband. I went ahead and added that elastic, but also did rows of top stitching there. So it has almost like a paper bag effect. I wish I would have tightened the elastic a lot more. I did not use any elastic guide. I just sort of tied an elastic around my waist and then cut. So I think that the elastic around the waist might have stretched out as I was stretching it to sew those two lines of stitching. I'm certain that's probably what happened, because when I measured it around my waist prior to inserting the elastic, I felt like it was quite snug. And then I even removed like a teeny bit when I was closing that off. So I think that's what happened. But all in all, I'm happy with it. My younger cousin saw it and she was like, "Oh, did you make that?" I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "It's nice." I was like, "Thanks." She's a teenager, so I mean, if she thinks it's nice, I guess it is, you know? I did use the cotton French terry for the cuffs on the sleeve and the bottom of the trousers, as well as around the neckline. And I'm gonna admit, I don't think that was the best idea necessarily. It definitely doesn't sort of go back, so I can see it sort of lifting here. So I probably should have, when I was flipping this over, tapered it in a little bit so that it just holds a bit neater at the neckline. So I know that for next time if I'm not using a ribbing. However, I did try to use a ribbing. I have this sort of rib knit fabric in my stash with these beautiful colors that I'd picked up previously at G Street Fabrics, and it has just that little bit of mustard running through there. So I thought that that would be a great addition at the cuffs and along the neckline. I had that on there last night. I didn't love it, so then I just removed it and went ahead and cut from the bits that I had the neckline and the cuffs again. I have only this remaining, so it's just scraps. So legitimately, I was able to get this set out of just about all of that fabric. And if you remember from my last video, I mentioned there were already cuts in this fabric within the dead stock section at G Street. Sometimes they're getting overflow fabric or fabric that's coming from warehouses or just different places. So that is something that could happen to some of those fabrics. Like they might have been used for something and then it's the offcuts. So I definitely worked around that, cutting the pants first and then waiting to cut the smaller details like the cuffs, the neckline, and the pockets out of whatever fabric remnants and offcuts were available, and that absolutely worked for me. I cannot wait to actually start identifying other just heftier fabrics in my stash that I can make these like sweatshirt sets out of, because that would, one, help me actually shrink my stash a little bit and give me some more space for some of the more springtime fabrics and thinner fabrics that I have to have a nice home, and also just like get some of these items made up. I will say that if I make this again, or when I make this again, I'm certainly going to add maybe an additional inch to the length in the arm here. It does just stop at my wrist, but I would prefer just a little bit more of like a cozy, longer length. So I would add maybe an inch to maybe an inch and a half there in the sleeve. And I would also shorten the body of this. As I mentioned, it kind of goes all the way over my hips, and I don't really need my sweatshirt to be that long. That might also allow me to save on the fabric when I plan to make this again. So that is something that I'm thinking about. For the pants, I think that I might need to sort of grade into a size small at the waist and then out to a medium, you know, through the leg and at the hip. And I think that would give me a better fit and also not use as wide of an elastic or as long of an elastic around my waist to make sure it really does cinch in. I will also let you in on one final secret about this make. This is legitimately, I think, the first time in maybe 2 years, possibly, that I have sewn with a fabric without pre-washing it. It feels icky to say. Ugh. I am a big supporter of pre-washing all fabrics. I often immediately, as I bring them in, pop them in the washing machine, which is exactly what I should have done, but I wanted to record that video and did not do that today. And this weekend is laundry weekend, so I will be getting around to that. So I am going to wash this as soon as it gets off my body once I finish recording this. And I'm just hoping that it doesn't shrink too much. Again, I believe this is a cotton terry fabric, so the cotton nature of it might lead to some shrinkage, but this is oversized enough that I think, listen, even if it shrinks a bit, I'm not too fussed about it, but I think I will notice it the most in the sleeve. Like if I lose any more length in that sleeve, I'm probably not going to be too happy. So I'll have to just watch it. I also feel like it's super plain. So a bit of me wants to like jazz it up and probably look in my stash for any of my single buttons. I often try and keep all of my one-off buttons in little baggies together. And I wonder if I could like bejewel this somehow or just like leave it plain and just casual as it is. Those are my thoughts. Really happy I made it, and at least now the pattern pieces are already cut out. So as I say, when I get additional fabrics, I can just whip these up. As far as what I'm planning to make in this upcoming week, I had to stop myself from giving you like an entire March and April, you know, sewing plans, because as I was thinking about what I want to make this week, I started thinking about additional stuff, and then I was like, you know, it's 1 week. So let's get realistic, basically. All that to say, there's something that's been on my mind to make for some time now, and that is the white crossover button-up shirt of my dreams. That's what I want to make, and I think this is the week that I'm just going to tackle it. I think so. I feel that in my spirit. I have this amazing cotton fabric from Joann's. It's meant to be, I believe, 98% cotton and 2% spandex. I mean, but this is stretchy. This comes out of their denim section. So, you know, but super stretchy. They say like the 98% cotton. There's something about this fabric that for me feels a little bit synthetic, but if they're marking it as 98% cotton, I'm just gonna believe them. And maybe when it's on my body, it won't feel that way. I don't know. There's something about like the sponginess, the denseness, like something about it that I'm like feeling a little bit of syntheticness. But I'm not here to be a detective. I'm here so. I have acquired a couple of cuts of this particular fabric all throughout my visits to Joann's last year. And I would find it in the remnant section, and I would, like, anytime I would see it, I'm like, yep, that's for me. Thank you. Gonna add to that. So all in all, I think I should have over 2 yards, but not all in one piece. So I'm hopeful that I can make this happen. Now the pattern that I'm going to use to do this is going to be a mashup of 2 of my fave raglan tops, okay? We are going to be taking the arm, the sleeve I should say, the raglan top portion, the collar, and the button front nature of McCall's 7472, and mashing that up with a favorite of mine, Simplicity 8834. Sorry, we got the tape there. And we're going to be using the crossover front from this pattern. I will take photos and document the way that I lay these 2 on top of each other to make this happen, so that I can share with you in a bit more detail what that looked like. Because if I try and explain it right now in words, I don't know that we're really gonna get a clear understanding at this moment. So just know that I'll take photos and kind of document the process as I go, but I'm going to use this stretch cotton fabric from Joann's to make a really phenomenal like white button-up top that has a crossover feature in the front with a collar, because I've wanted this since last year and just haven't tackled it, and it needs to get made up. So I'm excited about that. The reason, if you're curious, that I'm not just using the full raglan of this shirt and doing a similar hack to what I've done in the past when I've transformed this Simplicity 8834 into a button front collared shirt is because I really love the shape of the raglan in this McCall's pattern. You probably could see it a little bit better in the design lines here, but it sort of sits up higher and has like a curved motion, and because the sleeves are slimmer in the McCall's pattern, which is what I want. I want a very sleek sort of sleeve detail, and it already has the button front placket, and it already has a collar stand. So I think I'm going to have a lot of the work kind of done for me from that McCall's pattern, but I need the crossover feature of the Simplicity pattern. Outside of that, I also think that I want a really beautiful, flowy, flirty, feminine maxi skirt. And I remember picking up this fabric, this awesome ditzy floral print from G Street Fabric sometime last year. And I think that with the crisp white top on top of it would just be really beautiful. So I'm trying to get excited about spring, and I think a skirt in this would be lovely. I would then be able to pick up on all of the beautiful colors throughout this print. And I was fighting myself about like what to make with this fabric because it is so drapey and fluid. It's like a polyester. It almost feels like a crepe fabric, but it's quite light. And I was thinking about making a dress, making a, various things. I think I have a little over 2 yards of it. So it felt like too much to just make a top, but not quite enough to make a dress that would be in any style that I would like with how thin it is. So I think I'm going to make a skirt and try and use up as much of the fabric as possible, and that would make me really happy. I am going to, since I'm going to have the Simplicity pattern out, S8834. I had discovered last year that I really liked the shape of the skirt on its own, and that I could just add a waistband to it and treat this just as a skirt. So it has a front piece and 2 back pieces, so it would have a zipper up the center back. And I think that the A-line nature that I get from the skirt portion of the Simplicity pattern is exactly what I want, and just lengthen it so that it's maxi, and then figure out how I can incorporate any offcuts or additional fabric that might remain once I cut the skirt out of this, so I can incorporate it. I'm really trying to get better about using as much of the fabric that I have as possible, if not all, so that I don't have a ton of waste or remnants and that sort of thing. So that's my plan with this, and I think it's going to be lovely and a nice set together. Final fabric that I just pulled out just to have it out is this very electrifying cobalt blue fleece backed sort of fabric. I thrifted this a while ago, and I kept saying that I was going to make like some jogging bottoms for my kiddos just so they could have it like with the fleece line, and we are now inching our way towards the end of winter, and I still never really got around to it. So I was thinking I could make myself a pair of the jogging bottoms from this vintage pattern that I made this mustard set out of as well. Again, just to use up as much of this fabric as possible, get it out of my stash into my closet. I was tempted to add more and say more, but I said I was going to pause and just stop there. So 2 makes the button-up white top, and the skirt for sure is my hope. And because I already have this jogging set cut out, the pattern cut out, maybe just whip this up and find some cuffing or something that would be appropriate for that. 2 patterns that I just want to put the plug in your ear that hopefully maybe you might see them at some point as we move forward is this Darling Simplicity pattern here. And this is Simplicity S9702. So it's one of their newer patterns, and I just fell in love with it. My girl over at the Curated Curvy has recently just put out a pattern review on this, so I'm going to link that down below. I like the details that she included about sizing, adjustments that she had to make, and like if she were to do it again, her thoughts on it. So that was super helpful to me, and I'm taking note of all of the things that she said about sizing and, you know, all of that when I'm considering making this. Haven't put my finger on the exact fabric that I'm going to use, but I know that this is a dress that I want to have this summer. I also have this McCall's pattern. I cut this out before we moved, and this is M8147, this beautiful top, and I really love the one that the model is wearing in the cover, and also love this view down here as well, view B. So it seems super simple. I love the raglan nature. I like that it's flowy. I would wear mine tucked in as she has it here, and I think it just lends itself well to a decadent fabric, like something that you just want the fabric to shine. And I know I have a ton of fabrics like this in my stash, so that might be something to look forward to months in advance. Please let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on the jogging set that I was able to make. What are your thoughts on it? If you have any, you know, I don't know, well wishes for the 2 projects that are like top of my list for this upcoming week, send your well wishes down below. Have a wonderful weekend and happy sewing. Stay creative, friends. Bye-bye.